This podcast is part of the Gonna Geek Network. The opinions expressed may not reflect those of other podcasts or affiliates of the show or Gonna Geek. Check out other geeky podcasts at GonnaGeekNetwork.com. Get ready because geekiness commences in 3, 2, 1.
You have been granted clearance by Director Phil Coulson. Stand by for S.H.I.E.L.D. debriefing. All information to be discussed here is classified and may only be discussed among agents granted clearance by the S.H.I.E.L.D. Director.
Now it's time for your scheduled debriefing. I'm Agent Stargate Pioneer.
And I'm Agent Lauren.
Welcome to Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D., a Marvel Comic Universe podcast. This is podcast number 89 on the 2011 cinematic film X-Men First Class. This podcast is recorded on Wednesday, September 9th, 2015. Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. is a fan-based podcast on the ABC television show Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Marvel's Agent Carter, Marvel's Daredevil on Netflix, and the general Marvel Comic Universe.
Because we're mutant and proud.
Proud of it. Woohoo! If you'd like to talk to us about mutant pride, you can go to our website, legendsofshield.com. We have a voicemail line, 844-THE-BUS-1, 844-843-2871. We have a Facebook, a Twitter account, a Tumblr page, a YouTube account, which you can find all our great episodes on. And we have forums at the Gonna Geek website. Go to forums.gonnageek.com or search for Gonna Geek on your mobile Tap-a-Talk app. This time on Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D., we're going to be talking about our Ant-Man Marvel crate giveaway. We're going to be talking about X-Men First Class. We're going to be talking about our weekly comic book news because we have a S.H.I.E.L.D. report and a Mighty Marvel moment. We're going to run down all the rest of the weekly Marvel news and your feedback. Lauren, it is you and me tonight.
Indeed it is. Holding down the fort.
We have been ditched.
Oh.
Haley she's had it with us. She doesn't want anything to do with us. And she said, I'm off the podcast. Sayonara. See you guys.
Screw you guys. I'm going home.
But in reality, what happened is she is just off for the night. She will be back next week to talk her favorite Rogue cut.
Yes. So I was going to ask, are we doing the regular cut or the Rogue cut? Because I have the Rogue cut and I really want to do that one.
We've discussed this before. We are indeed doing the Rogue cut.
Yes.
I made sure that I have acquired a copy of the Rogue cut, so it is going to be awesome. You know, what I wanted to do is get a Rogue cut with a Blu-ray, a DVD, and the digital copy, but guess what? They don't sell that. So I just got the Blu-ray. Oh well.
Yeah.
Now, the Blu-ray does come, and the DVD, by the way, the Rogue cut for X-Men Days of Future Past comes with the Rogue cut and the original film. And that is the two copies that you get.
Now, hopefully, when I try live tweeting this one, it'll actually play on my Blu-ray players. Had a bit of a problem with that last night.
Oh, tell me about it. I've got my copy right here. Of course, if listener, you can't see it, but I'm holding up my copy of X-Men First Class so Lauren can see it. See,
yes.
I actually have it. So I went to go put it in my PS3, which is supposed to be this amazing Blu-ray player, right?
Oh my God, it wasn't just me. First I had the PS4. I put it in, nothing happened. I'm like, that's weird. So I restart it. Nothing happens. So I'm panicking at this point because it's like 5 after 8. I go to the PS3, which is in the bedroom. I put it in there. And for a second, I'm thinking, oh, hey, it's going to play because the, owned by 20th Century Fox, whatever things pops up. And nothing happens after that. Yeah, luckily I put it on my iTunes to take with me to work because, like I said, I was really active in the fandom back in the day and watched it about 50 times while researching a fanfic I was writing.
At work.
Shh. So I had it on my iTunes, but my computer's very slow and I started about 20 minutes late. So it was your Blu-ray too?
So I have a first generation Samsung Blu-ray player and it doesn't have any storage on it whatsoever. And this Blu-ray requires some memory. So I had to put in a flash drive in order for it to start on my Samsung. So then I was done with it in the great room, and I'm just going to watch this in bed for a little bit, take some notes, and fall asleep. So I'll go up to my bedroom, and that's where the PS3 is, and I put it in, and guess what? I had to update for a half an hour, the PS3. So I just went to sleep. And then I was going to watch it on the treadmill, and the Blu-ray player in the treadmill is the PS3 that Sandrock donated to me when he left the house. So I go to play it there, and guess what? I had to also update that. So I'm like,
Ooh.
Well, all the PS3s are updated in the house. The Samsung's working. But one of the things that I noticed with the X-Men First Cut is that it was designed for the latest edition in Blu-ray software. So it does have a disclaimer that pops up right away that says you might have to update the software for your Blu-ray player in order to play this. So guess what? We all had to do it.
Just so much boo. Thankfully, I was able to watch it. And if we'd watched this, I guess it was like a month or two ago, it was still on Netflix.
Oh.
But I think they started playing it on FX again. So.
It's a great movie. I loved it in the theater. It was amazing to me. I've never really been an X-Men fan, but this movie was like, boom, here you go. Here's your greatness. And I was like, oh, this is the X-Men I've always wanted. Yay. It's awesome.
Yes.
We've been getting some great comic book movies. And matter of fact, you know how we do the Marvel Cinematic Universe list of the top 12 or whatever, which we still have to redo after Ant-Man. But I think we should do like top comic book movies, period. Like Batman 89 and X-Men First Class and
Blade.
Yeah. Blade keeps coming up. I was talking to somebody else.
Blade's a good movie. I keep bringing it up. It's a good movie.
It's absolutely a good movie. I mean, I was talking to Michael Ruddy, who I interviewed. He was the cosplayer that 3D printed the Ultron mask. Mm-hmm. And we're going to try to have him on the podcast in a couple of weeks. Anyway, I was talking to him and he's like, oh yeah, Blade, you got to have Blade in there. You got to have Blade. And then guest 438 in the chat says, Blade Trinity.
Blade Trinity was a lot of fun. That was maybe the first time I actually ever paid attention to Ryan Reynolds. And 2 was directed by Guillermo del Toro. So A, it has Ron Perlman in it. And 2, it's also actually kind of a lot of fun.
I have watched them. I've loved them. I really do. But we have to consolidate all these movies, the greatness of the movies. And we're going to just have to pick a few from the MCU and throw them in there. And no, Wing, it's not going to be the Incredible Hulk. Sorry, dude. But we'll have to do that sometime, maybe in a couple of weeks. We'll see how that goes. But this was an amazing movie. It was cinematically done. Special effects were phenomenal. The story was outstanding. I'm glad we decided to rewatch this because it's been a while since I've been able to see it, and I just loved watching it.
I will watch it anytime it's on TV. And like I said, they really love playing it on FX. So this past weekend, we had guests over and the TV was on, the Simpsons marathon was on, and a friend of mine was watching it while we were off in the kitchen just talking. And I hear a noise and I just look over, like the dramatic chipmunk, and I'm like, X-Men? Is that X-Men First Class I hear? And they're like, yes. Because it was that banshee whistle.
Oh, yeah.
Like when he's trying to break the glass.
Uh-huh.
They were doing a little promo from that scene. And because, like I said, I've watched the movie about 50 times, I can recognize it like that.
I would have loved for them to have focused not just on him flying, but of him individually trying to get the individual panes of glass and that whole big thing. But the flying thing was so much cooler. So this film was directed by Matthew Vaughn, and it had a team of screenplay writers. And of course, the story was by Bryan Singer and Sheldon Turner. And it's amazing what they did. Actually, wasn't Bryan Singer supposed to direct it?
If I remember correctly, yes, he was originally supposed to direct it, but Fox wanted it rushed out the door. So he dropped out and then tapped Matthew Vaughn. He's like, well, I'm not going to do it, but this guy can. And Matthew Vaughn just really stepped up to the plate and handled it very well.
He did. I love it. And I love the Wolverine cameo in it, too. I mean, the whole thing.
And actually, given the Bryan Singer dropping out and the fast track, I remember thinking, oh my God, the last few X-Men movies weren't that great. This one, they're rushing it. I don't think it's going to be that good. I remember I heard the casting news and I heard which characters they were casting. I was like, well, maybe I'll see it when it's out on Netflix or something. And I didn't see it opening day. I saw it opening weekend. I didn't see it opening day. And then I started reading good reviews and I'm like, can I hope? Dare I hope? And we went to go see it. It was like the light in my life again. Just so happy. I grew up with X-Men. I grew up just wanting to be Rogue and Wolverine and Storm.
So I have a college friend in town right now for a few weeks. He's actually taking a class locally. It's a business professional development class. And he used to live in the area. He moved away, but he came back for this class and he just texted me last week. He said, "Hey, are you doing anything?" And I'm like, "Well, I mean, you got this standard Labor Day weekend stuff or whatever." He's like, yeah, I know. I'm actually going to go home for Labor Day weekend, but what are you doing? And I said, "Well, I'm actually watching X-Men First Class." He's like, "Really? Oh, dude, you mind if I come over?" And we just couldn't hook up. But then I said, "Hey, look, we're watching Days of Future Past Road Cut for next week." He's like, "Oh, I am totally there this weekend." So he's going to come over. It's so great. I haven't seen him in a while, and he's going to be able to come over. And he's the one who introduced me to X-Men. It's his favorite comic character, hands down, bar none. The next close one would be Captain America. But Captain America is way, way far down for the X-Men. So it's going to be so cool watching it with him, especially since it's got the homages to both universes in it next week. But it was great hearing from him. Now, the beginning of the film has that wonderful 20th Century Fox logo, right? Because this is a Fox film. And I was thinking, Lauren, I was thinking specifically of you and myself, of course. And I was thinking, that's so sad. Because we're not going to get it in Star Wars 7.
Yes. This is something that I remember when they announced they're selling to Disney and they're going to make a new movie. My first thought is, yay, they're going to make new Star Wars forever. And then my second thought was, we're not going to hear the 20th Century Fox thing, which a lot of people I know, me included, pretty much just consider that part of the Star Wars theme.
It is.
To the point where I went to go see Star Wars in concert a few years ago, and that's how they opened the show.
Sweet. So it's just expected, right?
It is.
We got it in this one. We're not going to get it in Star Wars. So we're just going to have to play it in our minds. Maybe we'll have to put it on our phones or whatever and play it in our ears right before we see the scroll. But also, there was no Marvel pre-roll. You know how they flip through the things? Again, because this is not Marvel Studios. This is Fox Studios. So just a little reminder that this is not the same company that is doing the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's supposed to be the same universe. It's the same universe in the comics, but they have definitely delved it out into the cinematic universe. So, boo-hoo. Now, I was reading up on the set designs for this film. I got a little article out of Cinema Review. I have no idea about the legitimacy of it or not.
I've read so much trivia about this, I can probably tell you if it's true or not.
Okay. So, first of all, they made an effort to go with the sign of the times. This was made largely in the 60s, early 60s, right? So it was just when the plastics were coming up, when the metal glass buildings were first started to be constructed. But what I wanted to point out is where this movie began for Eric in Poland, 1944. It is not the same set. They painstakingly recreated that same set from the original.
The original set, I think, was destroyed. So they had to recreate it, and they recreated more of it because you see, like, from a different angle.
Yeah. So it was amazing to the producers, to the production team, that as they were watching the dailies, they thought they were watching the original, and they were just making sure that they were watching the scene that they had just filmed the day before and not something that had been filmed in the previous film. So,
yep. Also, that's the same musical cue.
Yeah. They tried to make it as similar as possible, and for good reason. They wanted that continuity, and they got it. Not only with this, but as we talked before with the next film, which we will talk about next week. Haley is so excited to talk about that too, by the way.
So am I. I love these movies so much.
So, where do you want to go from here? There's so much to discuss.
Well, we could go linearly, or we could just jump around to what's awesome.
Yeah, what's awesome? What's the thing that pops out at you that's the most awesome?
Again, very involved in the fandom. The relationship, take that however you wish, between Charles Xavier and Eric Lehnsherr, Magneto, Professor X and Magneto. They did an excellent job, given the limited amount of time in the movie that these characters got to know each other, which I think the movie is supposed to take place during the time of about like 2 weeks. Even though in real life it was supposed to be something like 6 months between them moving those missiles to Cuba and the actual Cuban Missile Crisis. So fandom tends to stretch that out.
But if you take a look at the recruitment montage where the Wolverine had the cameo, Hugh Jackman and stuff, I think you can stretch or cut that as short or as long as you really want. Because, I mean, the submarine's moving, first of all, it's parked in the Arctic Circle, but it's moving from ocean to ocean. So subs don't move all that fast. It takes at least a week to cross the Atlantic. So that's 2 weeks right there, but they went up to the Arctic Circle, so there's more time there. So I don't know how much time is supposed to pass, but
yeah, I think Word of God is like, by Word of God, I mean like the producers and directors and writers and everything. The movie's supposed to take place during the span of about 2 weeks. But like I said, the fandom, because this is what fandom does, has kind of decided that it has decided to stretch that time out for the purposes of making the time with like history and all that line up.
Yeah. If you want to know more about the Cuban Missile Crisis, it actually occurred. And if you're into films, like you're watching this, go watch 13 Days if you have not already. It is a phenomenal recreation of the events that occurred there. It's not an exact documentary, but it is a phenomenal recreation of the events that occurred during the Cuban Missile Crisis. And you really see, it really did happen. And you really do see how scared everybody was and how fast everything happened. And when the Aral Sea, I believe the ship is called, was told to turn around, it literally was within minutes of Armageddon occurring. So the Aral Sea was not fired upon by the Russians or the Americans. It turned around, went back home, and the blockade persisted and no missiles actually made it to Cuba, or suppose we're led to believe. So that is the real thing that happened, and I love that they were able to use such a phenomenal event in history to frame the mutants coming out.
I remember when they first said, oh, we're making it during the 60s, I was kind of apprehensive, but it was kind of a cute nod to, you know, the characters having been introduced in the 60s. And I remember everybody got really up in arms about them picking characters that weren't part of the actual first class, which is Iceman, Cyclops, Beast, Angel, and Jean Grey.
Yeah, Jean Grey was not in here.
No, although we did get a little cameo from Cyclops in the Cerebro scene.
Oh, that's right, we did.
And he is going to be in the next movie.
Yay!
And so is Jean Grey and Angel, and of course we have Beast. And, oh, I'm so happy.
Yeah.
And of course now we've had Iceman, and so, yeah, we have had all 5 original X-Men.
I do love their naming ceremony, by the way, that they had in the CIA secret base.
Really perfect for a bunch of, you know, teenagers just hanging around. My friends and I used to do stuff like that in high school, which is how we got friends nicknamed things like Duck Wawa and Soapy.
Right. I mean, everybody's got nicknames from grade school or high school or whatever. College, too.
Yeah.
So, yeah, hey, we're going to call you, usually it's derogatory, but you know.
Yeah, we're gonna call you Magneto, and just the flat look on his face.
I know.
He's just the perfect picture of sarcasm through like the whole movie. I love it.
I do enjoy Fassbender and just about everything he's in.
And he continues to be great in this movie. I think before this, the only thing I'd ever seen him in was 300.
Oh.
If you've ever seen the PG 300 trailer, well, his character's name in it is Stelios.
Mm-hmm.
There was this video that was just inordinately popular with me and my friends for the longest time called PG 300. And let me find it. I'll link it in the chat and everything.
Okay.
But it replaces all the morally objectionable stuff in the 300 trailer. So he's the guy who yells, "Brush your teeth!" and "We will hug in the shade."
Yeah, I remember that. I've only seen the movie once, but I remember.
I watched that movie way too many times because oiled up men in man panties. I'm really easy to please. What can I say?
So they end up at the Professor X's mansion, right?
Yeah, but first, okay, I really want to talk about this. I don't like Azazel as a character in the comics.
Okay.
Canonically, he's a demon and he's Nightcrawler's father, and that whole storyline was terrible, how they handled it. But his design is really cool in the movie. He's played by Jason Fleming, who's pretty awesome. And let's face it, he does one of the absolute coolest uses of teleportation in a fight. It's like, oh, you want to fight? Guess what? I'll teleport 50 feet up in the air and drop you.
I know.
Why bother expanding the effort?
Yeah, just take you up, let you go.
Yep.
Boom, boom.
I kind of dig that, and it made me actually like Azazel, and I'd been ranting for months before the movie came out about how angry I was that they were including him in the movie. Like, if you talk to Eric from Art House Legends, we used to do a podcast together.
Yeah.
Quantum Tavern, and we were still recording at the time this movie came out, and every time the movie would be brought up, I would rant about how mad I was that Azazel was included because he was like the worst character ever.
Well, in that scene, I had forgotten that Tony Curran was in this movie. I totally forgot. And so I do a podcast on Defiance, and Tony Curran is actively one of the main stars on Defiance. And so I can recognize him. I recognize his voice anywhere. And also, I just watched Doctor Who, Vincent and the Doctor. So I've had my share of Tony Curran this summer. And then he pops up. He's one of the men in black he's actually the one that talks, right? So probably why they got a named actor for it. So he has several different lines, whatever. And I'm thinking, yeah, I think Datak Tar would have found a way to survive that assault. But
yeah, probably.
The man in black, Tony Curran, did not.
Speaking of Tony Curran, I was just rewatching Thor 2 today at a friend's house. Guess who plays Bor? Odin's father.
Oh.
Yep.
That's right.
He doesn't speak, but he's in there.
Yeah, he is.
Dressed as a Viking, a space Viking.
That is very true. I'd forgotten that as well. We talked about that before, like 50 podcasts ago or well. We have been podcasting for a while. Ooh, this is podcast number 89. Wow.
We need to have like cake for podcast 100.
Cake is good. I like chocolate. German chocolate, whatever. Double, triple chocolate.
Red velvet.
Let's have it all. So the mansion, Professor X's mansion. This is a new mansion. It is actually in England. Now, the one before
is Oliver Queen's.
Yes, is in Vancouver and is Oliver Queen's. I went into this movie just remembering that and like, hey, this is going to be the Queen Mansion. No, they sold that to the Queen family and they moved into this one in England. So the one before is now the Queen Mansion, and it is actually like a Coast Guard Academy or something like that in the Vancouver area. And this one is actually in Great Britain.
Yeah. And it has a website. I forget what the house is called, but it has a website. You could rent it out for parties and movies and stuff.
Oh, I didn't know about parties and movies and stuff.
I remember, again, fanfic. I was researching the house's layout. So, oh, shoot. Let me find out what it's called.
I'm looking at the production notes right now. It's in Berkshire.
Eaglefield House. They also filmed The King's Speech and one of the versions of Great Expectations there.
It is a heck of a scene, and it's perfect for this. But yes, it is not the Queen Mansion. I thought it was going to be the Queen Mansion. It is not the Queen Mansion. Aw, Star Pie sad. But there's a lot of other things that went on. And matter of fact, in the production notes, as long as I'm on this page, the production notes state that the airplane used, the X-Jet, is supposed to be a replica of the XB-70, which there were two made, and unfortunately one crashed. So there's one left. It's in the National Museum of the United States Air Force in Dayton, Ohio. And that is not an XB-70. So I don't know if they changed it, like in the CGI post-production, that, oh, SR-71 is cooler, and it came out about the same time.
What I think it probably is, one of the most famous X-Men jets, at least from what I remember from the TV show, was the Blackbird. It was like their thing. Oh, get to the Blackbird. So I'm betting that they might have made it look a little bit more like that, as a nod to the fans.
Oh, it was absolutely an SR-71. So I just don't know if these production notes are good or not.
Because also, Hank, when he's working for if I remember correctly, Oliver Platt was supposed to be kind of a pre-S.H.I.E.L.D. agent.
Oh, that's right.
They don't name it, but...
Oh, it was so sad about Oliver.
Yeah. But in interviews, he was saying, yeah, I like to think that the organization that I worked for would have gone on to become more like S.H.I.E.L.D.
That's true.
Yeah, he was working for them and he was like, oh, I designed all this stuff and I've been doing all this advanced science. So if there was an anachronism there in the design of the SR-71 being there, it's probably because, hey, he's so smart.
He is. He's awesome. And now he doesn't look anything like a human anymore, which is fine. That's all cool.
That's fine. He's shiny and chrome. By the way, he was Nux in Mad Max.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
So I can't resist making jokes.
I totally need to watch that.
Have you not seen it yet?
I've not seen it. No, it just came out.
Go rent it.
As we're recording this,
now.
It just came out on DVD and Blu-ray and whatever. And yes, I was thinking about renting it.
Go down to Redbox, rent it right now, or buy it.
Amazon Prime. I'm cool with that.
Okay, go when we're done.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm going to finish the podcast, and then I might have to sleep. But yeah, I will watch that soon. So anyway, Raven has this whole storyline through the whole thing about being insecure about her looks. And
well, to be fair, she is blue and scaly.
She is gorgeous.
I know, but most of us don't have to put up with being blue and scaly. I like to say that if I was blue and scaly, I'd be cool with it.
I'd stand out in a crowd.
Yeah, but after a while, that would get kind of old. And also, this is at a time when we're just coming out of the 1950s and this is early 1960s. This is 1962. Yeah. So there's still a lot of, I've heard it said that it's basically still the previous decade until about halfway through the next decade.
Okay.
It was still the 1980s until about 1993.
Yeah, okay, well.
And it was still the 1990s until about 2002.
Well, I'd argue with that. I think 2001 kind of ixnayed that.
Yeah, but like in terms of clothes and music and stuff.
All right.
By 2002 was when everything had just fully congealed. And so this is at the very tail end of the 1950s sensibilities. And you're just starting to see a lot of this, you know, the 1960s rebellion coming in. You see it. I love, by the way, I love the clothing design in this so much. There's a blog that I follow, Hello Taylor. She goes into just this wonderful look in costume design in movies, and she did X-Men First Class. But you see it a lot with her. She's wearing the short shorts. She's way ahead of her time with that. That didn't become popular until years later. But she's already standing out as much as she can to, you know, within society's boundaries. And being blue and visibly other than human, they are definitely not ready for that.
No, they're not. I mean, that's apparent even when they win the fight on the beach, that the fleets, particularly the 7th Fleet that's there, tries to kill them or detain them or whatever. And so they don't care who they are. They're mutants. They're, ooh, bad. You know, we can't have them flying around or whatever. So yeah, society was not ready for it. So she has this whole thing about her looks, and she's constantly trying to hit on Charles because he's the smartest man in her life, whatever. He never gets it.
He's the only man in her life. She's, okay, again, fandom, lots of navel gazing about all this stuff for 4 years now. As far as we know, 3 years. No, 4. This came out in 2011.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very clear that he's extremely protective of her. He's, you know, always kind of keeping her close and things like that. And she's kind of not really scared of other people with her interactions, but she's more comfortable with him than anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
So really, he's about the only important person in her life that we see, and definitely the only man in her life. So it's kind of not that big of a stretch to see why she's trying to maybe take that a little deeper, because again, also with her aging slower, I wouldn't say that it's her going through mutant puberty, but kind of going through mutant puberty.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, girl's got to be a girl, right? But so she does that, and then she has this whole thing with Hank. It's like, oh, you're beautiful. Like, and I think that's mostly like, oh, there's somebody else like me, right?
Yes.
And not really romantic, but she does try to do that, especially when Hank tries to steal her away, right, to make the serum, and he has this whole picnic of Twinkies, right? Twinkies at a picnic for kids. Yeah, okay. So he's got this picnic going on, and he's like, I just want a sample of your blood. And she's like, oh.
Yeah, that wasn't at all what I was expecting. This is so romantic, yes.
And then she ends up in bed with Eric, right?
Well, wouldn't you? I mean, really?
Well,
Michael Fassbender's a beautiful man, okay?
I'll grant you that. He's not the sort of guy I would cross the street for. I'm more of a Stephen Amell type than Michael Fassbender.
All right.
So she's in bed, and it's the first time that he's like, no, I don't want to see you like that. I want to see you like your true self. And she finally gets it. And I think it was at that point in time that she really understood that this is really what she wanted to be, and that Charles was never going to let that happen. And that is why she split with Eric at the end.
Yeah, because again, it's these two views of the world. There's the one that wants to blend in and get along, and the one that wants to just throw it in everyone's faces. And interestingly enough, you see this with a lot of just every social movement ever, pretty much, whether it's racial minorities, whether it's feminism, whether it's gender minorities, whether it's even hobbies, stuff like that, fandoms, things like that. You have the people who want to keep everything kind of low-key, wanting to blend in, and the ones who are like, no, we're here, let's make everyone uncomfortable, until they realize, oh, yeah, we're going to have to accept it because it's here. Again, that's one of the reasons why I loved X-Men so much, even from when I was little, was because in a lot of ways, especially as the comics matured and into the more modern age, when it wasn't just grr, kill all humans versus, oh, saintly Charles Xavier. In the more modern times, especially, it's those two kind of rational points of view, both have their flaws, but you really can't understand where they're coming from.
No.
And that's also why I like Magneto, because I'm definitely the kind of person who likes to make people uncomfortable.
Oh, yeah. Magneto's a wonderful character. Sean has shown me the way that Magneto is awesome, and you really get to see where he's actually coming from, not only in this movie, but in the next movie. So you get that origin, whatever. So I've got one more production note. The suits, the X-Men suits, they were actually made because Kevlar at the time was just coming into existence in the early 60s. And it was originally yellow. So that is why the X-Men suits are yellow, and the blue was just a match.
It's also a callback to their original suits in the comics, which were blue and yellow.
Exactly.
Well, black and yellow. But then in the newer X-Men First Class run of comics, they were blue and yellow.
Right. So that is why they got away with actually producing the X-Men suits in the original comics. It was like, yeah, well, that is the way it is. We're just going to make it out of Kevlar, and it's yellow. So there you go.
Yes. The costume design on this movie is just so good. I love their outfits and just what it says about the characters. There was a lot of thought put into these outfits, and I love it. I'm not a clothes person, but there's just so much to appreciate about this movie.
I love the recruiting montage. I love the training montage. That's my favorite part of the movie, when they're actually learning how to use their powers, and Eric pushes Banshee off the big antenna and everything. When
he just falls out the window, just, boom.
And then, into the brush. And Havoc. Oh my gosh.
And his loops of doom.
Do you want to be anywhere near that dude? I mean, no. So... And even Charles is like running in there with the fire extinguisher after he's done the first time.
I asked this on Twitter. I've seen this asked so many times before elsewhere. Why did they just have so many naked, perky-breasted female mannequins just lying around? Like, why? I can understand the bunker because of, the nuclear war fears and everything, but just so many naked mannequins just lying around and so perky.
I think it was Darwin that was helping setting him up once.
No. It was Beast. It was Beast. He copped a feel.
He was popping a feel on the mannequin. I was like, really, dude? Come on. I don't know if that was intentional for the shot.
It had to be.
Or if he was just making a joke on the set or whatever, but yeah.
I bet it was like joking around between takes and like, no, keep that. We're keeping that. Yeah. Do it again.
It's totally going to be in there. Totally. So... I've got just one thing left, and that is at the very end, Eric clearly knows that both those fleets are against them, right? And he tells Charles, look, tell me I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, I'll stand down, but tell me I'm wrong. And Eric's like, nope, you're right. Crap. And then the whole scene, the whole fight between the missiles and Magneto, and the whole fight between Charles and Eric, and the fact that Charles, we get to see on film anyway, why Charles is paralyzed.
Which is so much better than the original comics version, which was, if I remember correctly, he got into a fight in the astral plane with a demon calling himself Lucifer, and it was really dumb. In Ultimate X-Men, it was he and Magneto were broing out in Genosha, and Charles flipped out and left, and Magneto didn't take kindly to it, so he sent an iron pole through his back.
Ugh, that would have been graphic.
And I think this is the more recent. I can't remember if this comes from a Claremont comic, like redo of it or not. And anyway, it's way better than the whole battle on the astral plane with a really stupid demon.
Yeah, it was good. And then Moira, unfortunately, Moira does not have her memory of whatever happened. So, won't be seeing her again. She was a one-off.
Yes, you will. No, she's back.
I know. I was trying to build suspense for next week. Come on. Have everybody tell SP is wrong. I'm just throwing it out there.
I can't let it sit that long. I must be correct, and I must be correct now.
So how did Magneto get his helmet painted at the end?
The same way he got that damn costume, because you don't just have stuff like that lying around. Does he know a guy with an airbrush? Did airbrushes exist in the 1960s? Did somebody owe him a favor?
Kent in the chat says metal-based paint. I know, but he's got to have the helmet on, or else Charles is going to find him.
Well, I mean, I guess he doesn't have to worry if he's doped up in the hospital for a while recovering from being paralyzed. So that gives him a bit of leeway.
Yeah. So how do you take a shower? I mean, how do you cut your hair?
I know, right? No, fandom has addressed this. And the conclusion is that his head just smells really bad. Or else that
helmet
he does take a shower, and then he has to put up with Xavier screaming at him in his head the whole time.
But then he know where he was, though. That's the point. He can pinpoint it.
But only if he's within a certain radius, because otherwise he has to use Cerebro.
Well, I guess he does. I thought he didn't need it.
But I really do like the idea of every time he has to take off the helmet to shower or something, he just has this voice like, oh, look who's so high and mighty. Nagging.
Yeah, true.
I love that idea so much.
But they are friends. We see it all the way into the next movie. We see how they are friends. They just go about things way differently. Way differently.
Again, this isn't just me shipping it. The actors themselves, both sets who play Magneto and Xavier, both ship it. James McAvoy has said in an interview while they were on, the interview circuit for First Class, it's a pity that they couldn't just, have sex and get married and be friends and whatever. Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen have both said, yeah, basically they're in a long-term relationship together.
Yep, that they are.
Oh, and recently in the, I think it was the Secret War, Secret Love comic, there's a part where they're at, again, comic verse, not movie verse, but there's a part where it's like a couples dance. And when you're picking out couples in the crowd, there's Xavier and Magneto, together.
Yeah. So we've gone on and on about this. There's more to say, I'm sure.
Okay, two things that I want to bring up that I specifically said I was going to rant about. First of all, I love Zoe Kravitz. I messed up in Twitter yesterday because I had whiskey and I said Zoe Saldana. But let's face it, if Zoe Saldana was an X-Men, that would be amazing.
That's true.
She could be Storm. It would be awesome.
Oh, she could. It'd be cool.
I love her. She's amazing. She's also in Mad Max, by the way.
Yeah.
But I was really sad with the changes they made to the character. In the comics that she was introduced in, which were the new X-Men comics back in the early 2000s, Angel Salvador was a not really attractive, overweight, very angry teenager who was the victim of sexual abuse from her stepfather. And a big part of her story was overcoming that and eventually finding and making her own happiness. And she did run off with Magneto at one point. And I was like, okay, and they're going to turn her into a stripper. Okay. Also, she was very much like her powers were grosser. Her powers are very fly-like. Here, she spits up like burning whatever. And in the comics, it's fly acid.
Ooh.
Basically.
Okay.
Her wings are supposed to look very much more fly-like than dragonfly-like, which is kind of more Pixie from X-Men.
Okay.
And the other thing, and the thing that I will be ranting about until the day I die, is Darwin's death. First of all, Armando Munoz is the character in the comics, and his power is that he can literally survive anything. I'm using the word literally here correctly, because in the comics, he does get destroyed by, poof, and then he reconstitutes as a sentient ball of energy and eventually reforms a body. He comes back from that. He literally goes up against a death god. Again, not using the word literally the wrong way. This is something that he does against Hell as guardian, death goddess. And to survive an encounter with her, he mutates into a death god. So ball of energy should not have killed him. I will forever be angry about this.
Yeah, adapt to this. It's the whole thing.
I was so furious about that. I'm like, he's going to be back, right? And in the movie, he's still not back. I have not stopped ranting about this ever. I will never stop ranting about this.
So Adam in the chat mentions that X-Men and Guardians have crossed over in the comics a lot recently. Kitty Pryde has actually been dating Peter Quill for a while now.
Yeah, apparently they're going to be married very soon.
Yay!
Yay!
Comic marriage. So again, we talked about it a lot. There's still a ton more. I mean, we could probably spend a whole month talking about it.
I know for a fact that I could because I did.
We can't schedule-wise because we got to go ahead and we've got an episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. coming up in a couple of weeks here. So we're going to go ahead next week and do X-Men Days of Future Past. And Haley will be back for that. Road cut. And then we will be proceeding from there. So it was a fun watch. If you haven't seen it and you've listened to this podcast, you probably got the urge to go see it again because I doubt you're listening to this podcast and you have not seen it. So go ahead, go watch it, and then watch Days of Future Past and listen to us next week. So we have a couple of great segments coming at you. Are you ready for some awesomeness, Miss Lauren?
Ready.
All right, so we're going to go off to it. So we do have Mr. Adam called in and gave us a review of S.H.I.E.L.D. Mockingbird. Are you ready to hear what he has to say?
I am ready.
This is Consultant Black Adam with your mission report for the S.H.I.E.L.D. Mockingbird one-shot. When Mockingbird learns that her mentor, Dr. Wilma Calvin, was killed, she starts her own investigation. Dr. Calvin was a biochemist for S.H.I.E.L.D. until a disagreement with Nick Fury on continuing research into a new super soldier serum, and her murderer may be closer than Bobby thinks. This was an interesting story that gets into aspects of Bobby's history that haven't been explored in the show, with her being a scientist in addition to a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent. It also includes Lance Hunter, though I'm not sure if this is his first appearance or if he has appeared in the comics before. And there is an Easter egg in his house that Haley is sure to appreciate. This book also includes another short story introducing a character that will have a significant role in the Black Widow novel that is coming out next month. Ava Orlova is a teenage girl living in a homeless shelter in New York after breaking out of a S.H.I.E.L.D. safe house that has been her home for 5 years. When her friend is in danger, she shows some unexpected and rather familiar fighting skills. I'll see you next week for my mission report on the Quake one-shot.
It must be fantastic being Adam, right? Because he's got this soundtrack that follows him all over the place. He just calls in our voicemail line and there's the soundtrack. What do you think?
That'd be useful.
I would. It would.
But then again, it would make sneaking up on people really difficult.
So have you read this comic?
No, I haven't. I'm waiting for it to drop in price.
So what do you think about his rundown of it?
I really liked it. It makes me very excited to read it. And I think that this is actually the first appearance of Lance Hunter in the comics. I remember reading that they were going to be introducing him in the Mockingbird comic.
Sweet. And with the Mockingbird pilot out there, I'm very interested to read this myself. I think I'm going to get to it this weekend. So thank you very much, Adam, for whetting our appetite. We really appreciate that. And to run down the rest of the week in Marvel Comics, Neil phoned in his take on it. Are you ready to hear that?
What?
Hi agents, Neil here with your Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. Marvel moment covering new releases from September 2nd, 2015. Marvel keeps the hits coming with some really great issues this week, including the final issues of some of the Secret Wars arcs, so what are we waiting for? Let's get into it. Starting off this week is issue number 1 of Deadpool vs. Thanos. Yep, you heard it right. Everyone's favorite merc with a mouth is going up against the Mad Titan, with Death herself being caught right in the middle as the fate of the universe hangs in the balance. As usual with the Deadpool book, this issue doesn't take itself too seriously and has a fun lead-in story featuring Dr. Doom. If you're a Deadpool fan, then definitely check this out. Daredevil number 18 wraps up what is sure to become a classic run of Daredevil. Mark Waid and Chris Samney give us the conclusion of this epic tale of Daredevil versus the Kingpin, and in doing so, tie up a lot of loose strings, leading to a satisfying conclusion. While I really love this book, I felt that the art was a tiny bit inconsistent, and the introduction of a relatively new ability for Daredevil might have been a cheap way out of a corner they had written themselves into. Nonetheless, this was an epic story arc, and I can't wait to see how the series reemerges after Secret Wars. Silk number 7, Last Days, gives us the story of Silk as she faces the incursion event that kickstarts Secret Wars. While Silk has struggled to find her own identity outside the Black Cat story arc that's dominated most of this series, in this issue she seems to really embrace the title of hero, all the while striving to track down her brother. Groot number 4 continues Groot's quest to save Rocket from the clutches of Eris. The art by Brian Kessinger is simple yet effective in this issue, and after a pretty heavy last issue featuring the Silver Surfer, this issue finds a more humorous tone. What's great about Jeff Loveness' story, though, is that mixed in with the humor is a great story of loyalty, friendship, and heart, which underscores what makes Groot such a fan favorite. Silver Surfer number 14, Last Days, gives us the story of Norrin and Dawn following the destruction of the universe as a result of the incursion event, and their efforts to piece reality back together. While there's a lot here for hardcore Silver Surfer fans, the story did seem to wander a bit, and unfortunately it never really pulled me in. And finally, S.H.I.E.L.D. Mockingbird number 1 also came out this week, but I'm going to leave it to Agent Black Adam to fill you in on what Bobby Morse is up to. That's it for non-Secret Wars titles. Now let's dive back into Secret Wars. Let's start with Squadron Sinister number 3, where the double-dealing and backstabbing within the squadron reaches a fevered pitch. Writer Mark Guggenheim continues the story of Hyperion's iron rule over Utopolis, with Nighthawk, Warrior Woman, the Wizard, and Dr. Spectrum all pursuing their own agendas. If you love watching bad guys trying to screw each other over and aren't afraid of a high body count, then this book is for you. Marvel Zombies vs. Age of Ultron number 4 wraps up the story of Hank Pym and the Citizens of Salvation as they finally face the might of the combined Ultron and zombie hordes. This was a really solid issue and a fitting way to send off this series, including a touching look at the Vision, as well as one of my favorite Avengers, Wonder Man. For a series that I was pretty skeptical about in the beginning, I'm definitely sad to see this one end. This week also brings us Star-Lord and Kitty Pryde number 3, which ends this short Secret Wars series. Believe it or not, this title is actually my pick of the week this week, as the clean Disney-inspired art, great takes on Peter Quill, and his interactions with Drax and Gambit all felt genuine and hit me right in the feels. This was a fun little story, and even though it's ending, I get the sneaky suspicion that the story is just beginning. Thor's number 4 continues the police procedural drama as Loki is thrown into the interrogation room as Ultimate Thor tries to get a confession as to the murder of his partner, as well as Donald Blake and a string of murders across Battleworld. This issue was nearly my pick of the week again, and the story, pacing, and art were all excellent. If you haven't been reading Thor's, do yourself a favor and catch up, will ya? Hail Hydra number 2 gives us another look at a corner of Battleworld ruled by Hydra, where Steve Rogers' son is forced to face off against the ultimate Hydra assassin, Venom. While this series raises some interesting concepts, it does miss the mark in a few places, which is unfortunate, as the story seemed to have a lot of potential at the onset. House of M number 2 also came out this week as the human resistance movement kicks into high gear. My favorite part of this book has to be the versions of familiar characters that writer Dennis Hopeless has introduced in the series. Both Namor and Quicksilver are unique to this story, yet many of the undercurrents of their classic characters are still definitely there. For fans of Misty Knight and Hawkeye, you'll love seeing what these guys are up to as they stand up to Magneto. Future Imperfect number 5 concludes this Secret War series as well, as the Maestro and the Thing's resistance work to secure the Destroyer to use as the ultimate weapon against Doom. This is a great final issue, chock full of action, and artist Greg Land knocks it out of the park again. The cameo of Rick Jones as a counterpoint to Banner's Maestro is pretty poignant, and Jones definitely has some of the best lines of the issue. If you've been waiting to check the series out, I can say it's definitely worth your time. Spider Island number 2 also came out this week, and while the Spider Queen story does feel a bit cramped with all the various versions of familiar characters, Flash Thompson as Agent Venom continues to be a standout character, and the monster versions of some of the classic Avengers definitely have their moments. Come on, a vampire Carol Danvers Captain Marvel? What's not to love? Age of Apocalypse number 3 also dropped this week, but I didn't get a chance to pick it up, so head on over to the forums and tell me what I missed. That's it for new releases, and unfortunately, since I've been on vacation this week, I've been catching up on a couple of new novels that came out this summer. Have no fear though, my long box pick of the week will return next week, but in the meantime, send in a voicemail or an email to the Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. crew and tell us what you've been reading and what you've thought of Secret Wars so far. Later, guys!
As always, Neil does a fantastic job, and my hat is off to him. There's so much here to go through. Do you have anything that you wanted to point out?
Again, wow, I really admire you for getting through all that. Yeah, there's so much there that I'm looking forward to picking up when it's out in a collected form and just sitting down and taking an afternoon to read through it.
He's really liking Thor's. You got the zombie Carol Danvers.
Yes.
Vampire, excuse me, not zombie, vampire. So, yeah, there's just a ton of stuff in there. Neil, thank you very much for catching us up to date on all of it. I can't wait to get into it. Are you ready to get into some other news?
Yes, I am.
Let's do it. Our first news story of the week ties into the upcoming season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. They are running a contest right now with a couple of, well, I wouldn't say they, it's mostly Clark Gregg and Chloe Bennett are running this dub smash war for charity.
To the death!
To the death! Against the Agent Carter folks. And so if you haven't picked out the latest round, I guess, round 1, and put your vote in, get it in now before they move on to round 2. It's funny. Patton Oswalt is in this one too. It's great.
Team S.H.I.E.L.D. finally dropped their video today. Team Carter, in case you don't remember theirs, did all the single ladies with everyone. Haley Atwell, James Darcy, and Miss Piggy all dressed in the blue dress with the red hat.
Miss Piggy for the win. Yep. That was awesome.
In this one, it's Chloe Bennett, Clark Gregg, Adrian Palicki, and Patton Oswalt all singing Wrecking Ball while swinging back and forth on Wrecking Balls while wearing rolled up t-shirts and short shorts.
It was funny. If you haven't seen it, go ahead, take a look at it. It's great. These guys are doing some great stuff, and it's for charity. Let me remind you, it's for charity.
And it's fun. And once again, whoever wins, we win.
Yes. So listener, go ahead, get your vote in. The last I saw, Team Carter had 11,000 votes and Team S.H.I.E.L.D. had 12,000 votes or something like that. So get your votes in. And talking about Team S.H.I.E.L.D., the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 3 trailer is out. And it's oh my goodness. Lorna and I were talking about this before the cast. We were like, oh, who's that person? Who's that person? We just can't wait. It is so cool.
Yes, it's who's saying this? What's going on?
I don't know.
The preview shows, I keep wanting to say Sky, but she's introducing herself as Daisy. It shows, let's just call her Quake. It shows Quake's new haircut.
Yes. which is awesome.
Yes, it's really awesome. People running around looking confused. The Ginger Ninja is apparently back. And Lash, who I think we've talked about before, who's an Inhuman character. We see his silhouette, if not all of him.
Oh, yeah. We've got some Inhumans coming at us. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be great. Can't wait.
Oh, my God. It's so soon.
Another couple of weeks, and then we'll be podcasting on it.
It's going to be amazing.
Yes. So, Netflix series upcoming. We've got Jessica Jones, and then Kristen Ritter talks and dishes about David Tennant.
She was on the, what's the name of this podcast? It's Marvel.
It's Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D, right?
I wish. Oh my God, I wish. Marvel's weekly podcast. She was talking about Jessica Jones. She was talking about David Tennant and what a nice guy he is, which isn't news, but it's always nice to hear. She's talking about the tone of Jessica Jones and them making it very dark and gritty. And she said that the stuff I did see was so rad, it almost brought me to tears. I'm so excited to see the show and what it looks like after they sprinkle their Marvel fairy dust all over it.
It's going to be fun, yeah.
I want Marvel fairy dust.
Interestingly enough, going back to Defiance, because we did talk to a lot of the people that were on the show. When the show started, they only had 2 episodes in the can, which ran back to back that first premiere night, that they gave all the actors and actresses. So when it came down to later on in the season, they actually had to watch the show in real time with us.
Yeah. I hear that a lot. They're like, oh, hey, here, you can preview this. And then you get to watch with everyone else. And everyone's like, hey, that's what it looks like.
Right. And largely with these shows, it's because of all the visual effects that they have to throw in after the fact. It's not because they don't want to show it to them. It's because there's people furiously working on their computers 24 hours a day to try to pump this stuff out. And remember, with these shows, and not Netflix shows, but in TV shows, they have 8 days to get episodes out. So they're on a time crunch.
One of the things I remember that Ron Moore used to do for Battlestar Galactica was he would do a kind of commentary after every episode on his podcast. He did a podcast where he was basically just talking about the episode and doing a commentary along with it. And that was something that I really liked, was hearing a behind the scenes thing of, oh, hey, this happened here. And, we almost didn't get this shot done. And then at the last minute, these people were staying up for weeks to do this and all this stuff. And it really makes you appreciate this stuff doesn't just appear like magic.
And if you're interested in hearing about the VR process, you can go back to Voices of Defiance. We do have a couple of interviews with one of the guys that's working on the VR crew for Defiance, so you can see how that all puts together. But as far as Netflix goes, they have a little bit more time, and I was really hoping for a lot more special effects in Daredevil than we got, but what we got was cool. I can't deny that. That was awesome. So I'm really looking forward to what's in Jessica Jones, and David Tennant it's just going to be awesome. Who cannot like David Tennant? I mean, he's been phenomenal in just about everything he did. So there is another upcoming Netflix series, Lauren.
Luke Cage!
There you go. So you got a couple of stories about Luke Cage. Can you clue me in?
So remember last week I kind of freaked out about Misty Knight being cast?
Yes.
Well, now we have an actual actress. Her name is Simone Missick.
Uh-huh.
And I'm looking at her IMDb, and I don't think she's been in anything I've seen, but she's been in a few things. She's been acting since about 2003.
Okay.
And I mean, she looks the part. I really can't wait to see what she brings to the part. It's going to be so awesome to see Misty Knight.
Marvel has got some incredible casting capabilities.
And the other bit of casting news is that Mahershala Ali has been cast as Cottonmouth.
Yes.
Cottonmouth is a kind of a bad guy. His actual character's name is Cornell Stokes. He's in the comics, he's a Harlem nightclub owner. So, yeah, we're pretty sure he's going to be a bad guy.
If I had Cottonmouth the whole time, I would definitely be a bad guy. I would be intolerable. It'd be like...
You drink all this water and it doesn't even help. But Mahershala Ali, he's been in a bunch of stuff. I first remember him from Crossing Jordan. He played one of the medical examiner assistants for a while.
Okay.
He's been, most recently, you might have seen him in Hunger Games Mockingjay.
Yes.
He's Boggs. It's been a while since I've seen Mockingjay.
Yes, I only saw that movie once as well.
And he's one of those guys you look at a picture and you're like, oh, he was in House of Cards.
Oh, yeah. So, funny story about Mockingjay. My daughter went to see it in the theaters, but she's like, oh, I want to see it. I want to see it again. And I just never got to the theaters to see it with her. And so it came out on DVD and she's like, Dad, can we watch Mockingjay? So I'm like, okay, but it was late at night. So I'm like, okay, well, I can't go to the store. I'll just get it on Amazon. So she's like, Dad, can you get the 1-day shipping? I was like, all right. So it came in and she got to watch it the next day. It was on a weekend, so that was cool. But this casting is coming out for Luke Cage. I don't know if they're filming yet, right? I know Jessica Jones is filming, but is Luke Cage filming?
As far as I know, they haven't started filming yet. But with all the casting information that's coming in, it wouldn't surprise me if we get news in the next couple of weeks that they're starting to film.
Okay, so Jessica Jones is filming that. It's going to come out in December. We already know that Daredevil is filming a season 2 that's probably going to come out sometime next spring. I'm just guessing. And then Luke Cage would be the next one, next fall sometime. So we'll see. It's awesome. So another thing that was filmed about a year ago, just over a year ago from now, was Age of Ultron. And if you wanted to see some deleted scenes, you can see them on YouTube right now. Now, it's like royalty-free music when you're trying to search for it online, where you've got the watermark of the whatever website you're on going on. You're going to get a little deleted scene, big placards as you're watching this. But I will tell you, well, Lauren, what is it? About the 11-minute mark?
Yeah, at about the 11-minute mark is, okay. So, and I'm not just saying this because it has shirtless Thor.
You're totally saying it because it's shirtless.
No, I'm saying this because it makes more sense than what was actually in the movie.
It does. We were talking about it before. I agree.
Instead of Thor jumps in a bathtub and gets a vision, the deleted scene has him actually summoning the Norns, who in Norse mythology are past, present, and future. And that's how they get the information about the Infinity Stones. And it looks cool. It sounds freaky. There's a lot more stuff going on, and it goes on for longer.
I know it was long, and I know they were looking at cutting things out, but I would have totally wanted that full scene in the movie. It would have made a lot more sense.
Just cut out some of the stuff from the farm of sexual tension. We didn't need all of that.
Well, yeah, Hawkeye's wife was cool in every scene she was in.
Yeah, she's all right.
And the little S.H.I.E.L.D. agents as well. But, other than that, yeah, I agree. So go ahead, take a look at it. The last couple of minutes, I mean, if you're having it goes on for like 15 minutes, but about half of that is the placard saying deleted scene. So if you just want to get to the good stuff, go to the end, starting somewhere after the 11-minute mark, and you'll see the Thor scene. So also, talking about the Avengers, we have some news about, well, it's not really news. It's just that Chris Evans is totally okay with extending his Marvel contract. And I just want to say, duh.
So this came out pretty much right after the whole shakeup at Marvel Studios. So there's a lot of guesses that this has, that he's like, oh, well, these people that were annoying me aren't going to be as involved anymore. Yeah, I'll see about staying on. And I wouldn't mind that because I like Chris Evans and he's really cool as Steve Rogers. And I really like his performance as Steve Rogers.
I know, he's been really nice.
I really need to sit down and watch Winter Soldier again. I was just thinking about that last night, so I think I might do that tomorrow. Watch Winter Soldiers and watch Silence of the Lambs again.
Okay. So remember we were talking last week about the whole shakeup at Marvel? There was a little news that came out that the budget, specifically the creative team causing Civil War's budget to balloon, almost caused Kevin Feige to literally quit. He was going to take his ball and he was going to go home. And that's when Disney stepped in and said, what's going on? No. You need to get this under control. And here's your new title to do it.
Yeah. So apparently, Kevin Feige almost quit. And that was the whole impetus for this shakeup, I guess. Maybe it's just me, but I would think that logic would dictate you can't have this movie with all of these stars and all of this action and all of these special effects and want it to have this minuscule budget and be like, okay, we want you to have less of a budget and less of a budget. I think that you could use some of those profits to kind of funnel it back into the system and keep it going.
Yeah. So don't forget, though, is that Disney considers Avengers to be a failure.
Age of Ultron It underperformed, I think.
No. They consider the first Avengers to be a failure.
Really?
Yeah, they saw it as making more money than Avengers. They saw it as, even though it was a tremendous success, Disney saw it internally as a failure because it didn't make enough money. So, but $7.6 billion, 12 movies. That's not shabby at all. And not one has tanked. They've all made money. It's not like you had one that like only made, I'm trying to think of one of the failures this summer, that type of money that, $50 million its opening weekend and that was it. But it's a good series. And matter of fact, it is the most successful series of all time. And I've got the proof of that in a YouTube video that ran down all the series, including the Bond films. It's outperformed in total. The 12 films of the MCU have outperformed all of the Bond films. So there you go. Take that, Wing. I do like Bond. So anyway, but in our last news of the Avengers, Mark Ruffalo says Hulk definitely is not in Civil War. I think it's part of this, that they just didn't have the money for him. And honestly, I don't think they wanted to waste an appearance on him. And there was a reason why they wanted to take the Hulk out of Civil War.
Again, I'm okay with, if there's not a narrative purpose for a character to be there, I'm okay with that character not being there. And it'll just make when they come back that much more effective. So if there's not a narrative purpose for him in Civil War, okay.
Yeah. And talking about Hulk, we got a totally awesome new Hulk.
Yes, I'm actually really excited about this. Marvel Comics has revealed that post-Secret War, the new Hulk is going to be Amadeus Cho. Amadeus Cho is a character who was introduced right around the time of Planet Hulk. Like right before they shot him off into space and everything, if I remember correctly, or right when he came back from, it was right around that time. And he was introduced at the tail end of the Hulk before it became the Incredible Hercules. And he was the Hulk sidekick for a little bit. He was kind of a jerk there. And then he was Hercules' sidekick for a while, and he was pretty awesome. And he's just been kind of tooling around the Marvel Universe, being the 7th smartest person on Earth and having fun and being awesome. So the whole thing here is he doesn't have the whole, oh, woe is me, I'm the Hulk. He's like, oh my God, I finally get to be the Hulk. And plus, it's a big move because Amadeus Cho is, in the comics, Korean American. He's being written by Greg Pak, who's Korean American. And he's being drawn by Frank Cho, who's Korean American. This is the first Marvel series in history to feature a Korean American lead character, writer, and artist. And Greg Pak actually created Amadeus Cho, which is a good reason why he's writing him. And this is actually really awesome. I'm so excited for this. I've never really read a lot of the Hulk titles or anything, but I really actually want to pick this up. I like Amadeus Cho a lot.
Yeah, I can't wait to read it as well. And Haley will get to it in about, 2023? So
something like
that.
We'll
get her reactions then, because we will still be doing this podcast then, because if you haven't seen the latest list of Marvel movies, it goes out to 2019, and they're going to go out for further than that. So there you go. And it's going to be like Star Trek or Stargate, and we're going to have 17 years of Marvel comic shows on TV. So we're in this for the long haul. We're in this for you. Yay! So we got some feedback, and you want to hear it?
Yes.
All right. Yes, we have some feedback, and we got a couple of tweets, as always, from our fans out there, our listeners. Richard at Kodiak GWC. He retweeted something and he said, Punisher. And did you see the picture?
Yes, I did. I had to retweet it after I saw it too. It's John Bernthal, well, kind of from the nose up.
It's Shane. I see it. It's Shane.
Yes. The top of his head and a whole bunch of automatic weapons. Like a whole bunch.
It's awesome.
It's like, that scene in The Matrix?
Yes.
Yeah, it's kind of like that.
That's exactly what it's like.
So many guns.
So many awesome guns. And they're all props, but so many awesome guns. It's awesome.
So many guns.
So thank you very much, Richard. And then, Kier, we need to have this discussion. So I do another podcast on the Gonna Geek Network called Starling Tribune. It's on the CW show Arrow, right? And so the costumes for season 4 just started coming out in the last couple of weeks. So Kier tweeted us, and he said, I expect Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Starling Tribune to furiously debate the Helmet Gate at length and the Greek litigation. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, one of the characters, John Diggle on CW Era, has a helmet that looks exactly like the Magneto helmet. Dude!
I saw that picture and I was like, way back, what? And then I did a double take and I'm like, no, that's,
So I saw a picture either with the goggles down or the sides not there or whatever, and it looked like a Speed Racer helmet. And then I see the picture now without the goggles or the shield or whatever with those side shields, and it's totally Magneto helmet. It's like,
okay, maybe spoilers, but why does he need the helmet? Just because?
He has no superpowers whatsoever, right? So he's totally vulnerable to all these assassins. Dude needs some armor. It's like Daredevil, right? Better get yourself some armor.
I was just wondering why a helmet in specific.
Yeah, so could they have done something different? Absolutely. It does have a motorcycle-ish look to it, and of course motorcycles are all over Arrow, so there's that, but it's like, they could have done so much better, and I will wait until the series comes on. It doesn't start until October, so I'll wait until October and I see it in action to make my final judgment. Oh, of course, Mark Guggenheim, who does write for Marvel. I think that's amazing, right? Mark Guggenheim.
He writes for both.
Yeah, and he writes for Marvel, and then he's got this DC TV show, so it's awesome. But anyway, so yes, there has been a Helmet Gate. We will get Haley's take on it as well next week. We will not let you go without that. So if you have something to say about Helmet Gate, go ahead, tweet us, email us, whatever. We will definitely debate it next week. All right. You ready to walk this puppy out?
Yes, I am.
Woohoo! We're done!
Yay!
What do people need to do if they need to contact us, Lauren?
If they want to contact us with episode feedback, Science of Marvel questions, general admiration of characters, that sort of thing, insights to stuff that we have missed, you can contact us. All our information is on our website, legendsofshield.com. You can get a hold of us at our voicemail, 844-THE-BUS-1. That's 844-843-2871. You can find us at our Facebook, our Twitter, our Tumblr, and our YouTube channel, all Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. And at the forums, forums.gonnageek.com, or search Gonna Geek on the Tapatalk app.
Yes, we do miss stuff because even though Lauren is a variable cornucopia of Marvel encyclopedia knowledge, we squirrel her all the time so she forgets what we were talking about. So yes, if we have lost some insights, please do get back to us.
Squirrel is a verb. I like that.
Yeah, exactly. So thank you, listener, for listening to us live. We really appreciate we had Neil, Adam, Kent in the chat. Guest 438 was in there earlier. So thank you guys for joining us tonight. You are always welcome. 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Mountain, 6 p.m. Pacific time at gonnageek.com/live. It is awesome. And then also, don't forget about all the other amazing shows. Told you a little bit about Voices of Defiance, Crimson Comet, and Starling Tribune. There are 17 geeky related podcasts on the network. If you're listening to this, there's got to be something on there that you are liking. September 19th. Are you excited about September 19th?
I'm excited about September 19th.
Doctor Who, yay! And there's a podcast on the network for that, Gallifrey Public Radio. So go ahead and find that. So thank you, everybody, for coming and listening to us live.
Yes, and thank you for everybody who checks our Facebook page, who links us to stuff there, or on Twitter, who follows along for live tweets, just anything that y'all do to get in contact with us. We love y'all.
We do. We will be going over X-Men Days of Future Past Road Cut next time. And until next time, I'm Agent Stargate Pioneer.
I'm Agent Haley.
We'll see you guys next week. Bye!
Later.
Thank you for listening. If you want to leave us feedback, go to gonnageek.com and you will find all of our contact information and other shows. You can also visit legendsofshield.com where you'll find our complete archive of podcasts. The music heard on this podcast is by Kevin MacLeod and can be found at incompetech.com. The opinions heard on this podcast are those of the individual host and do not represent Legends, Stream, or Gonna Geek. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is the property of the Disney Corporation. No infringement is intended.
Broadcast has been successfully terminated.